If you're hoping for a second chance with your ex, and it seems like no matter what you try, they're still not showing any interest or willingness to re-engage, it's really one of the most frustrating feelings in the world. And this is especially true if you expected them to chase after you, but they're not. So in this video, I'm going to share 13 different possible reasons why your ex isn't showing interest in getting back together, and what you should do to turn things around, make them regret the breakup, and ensure that they come back to you before it's too late. All right, so firstly, you should know that in most situations, there's likely more than one reason why your ex hasn't chased after you yet. It's rarely exclusively for a single reason, but rather a combination of two or more different reasons that have combined to make them hesitant to take you back. Now, let's begin with possible reason number one, emotional overload. So right after a breakup, emotions are running high for both parties. Your ex might be feeling a mix of relief, sadness, anger, confusion. And that emotional cocktail can be overwhelming, making it difficult for them to process their feelings clearly. And in this state, they're less likely to reach out because they need time to just sort through their emotions. Think about it like this. Have you ever tried to make an important decision when you're stressed or upset? It's tough, right? And the same applies here. Your ex might just need some space to let the emotional dust settle. Now, this isn't usually a problem if you take the hint and back off, give them plenty of time and space by engaging in a period of no contact, and wait for the worst of their emotions to fade. Reason number two, fear of rejection. So your ex might simply be afraid that if they reach out, you'll reject them or react negatively. And this fear can be paralyzing and prevent them from actually taking that first step. There's a psychological phenomenon known as the risk aversion bias, where individuals prefer to avoid losses rather than acquire gains. So in this context, your ex might avoid reaching out to prevent the potential pain of rejection. Now, this one is way more common when you dumped your ex rather than the other way around. So if you were the one who made that initial decision to break up and your ex felt as though you no longer wanted to be with them, well, it's possible that they simply don't know you want to start over. Now, of course, the solution here is easy. You simply drop some hints that you're interested in talking and seeing your ex again, and you flirt. You drop a few sexual innuendos or hint at how much you miss them and long for their company again. But, and this is absolutely critical, you need to be sure that this is the reason that your ex isn't showing interest in getting back together before you show your cards and make it clear that you're keen to start over. All right, reason number three, they're testing the waters. Sometimes exes stay silent to just see how you'll react. They might be waiting to see if you'll chase them, giving them a sense of control or validation. Some people seem to actually believe that old saying that if they really love you, they'll chase you. So they could be hoping that you'll take the first steps and make a concerted effort to talk them into getting back together. Or even more likely, your ex could be using the breakup as a chance to really just see what it's like to be single again. They may have felt unhappy or restless in the relationship and felt that they needed to find out whether there's somebody else out there that might be more interesting or more compatible. Or they might just want to enjoy the sense of freedom that being single offers. Now, if this is the case for your ex, it's generally good news for your chances because it means they're not fully committed to a permanent breakup. If they don't find the single life quite as exciting or liberating as they thought, or they can't find somebody new to replace you, they'll probably come crawling back on their own. They're keeping you basically as a backup plan and keeping their options open. Now, the key here is to pressure your ex into taking you back before it's too late and you move on to find somebody new. Because if you sit back and stay available to your ex, they won't feel any urgency to get back together. They'll think that they can take as long as they want to decide if the breakup is permanent, which makes it more likely that they'll move on. So you need to show your ex that you aren't willing to wait around as a backup plan and make it clear that if they don't quickly decide to take you back, they're going to lose you for good. Now, I've made several videos on the importance of creating a sense of urgency for your ex. So I'll link to one of the best ones in the pop-up here and in the description below so you can watch that next and learn more about how to actually create urgency and a fear of loss for your ex. On to reason number four, you've pushed too hard. Now, this is perhaps one of the most common reasons that your ex isn't showing much interest in getting back together. You've pushed too hard, been too clingy, or smothered them, or just flat out failed to respect their desire for time and space. So if you're guilty of begging or pleading your ex since the breakup, if you pestered them to reconsider their decision or didn't take the hint when they asked for space? Well, this is almost certainly at least partly why they're not showing interest. They simply feel smothered by your pestering or begging. They don't feel like you're respecting their boundaries, and they simply want you to stop bugging them. Now, it should be no surprise that begging, pleading, crossing your ex's boundaries, these are very unattractive traits and will almost always push your ex away and force them to give you the cold shoulder. Now, to overcome this, the first step is just to completely stop any needy or clingy behavior. So find the strength to back way off and go full no contact for at least a couple of weeks. This is going to show your ex that you are willing to respect their boundaries, that you're not as needy and desperate as they had thought, and it will allow them the time to actually start missing you. All right, and let's move on to reason number 5. They're dating someone new. Now, I'm not sure this one really needs much explaining, but it is possible that your ex has found somebody new. They might still just be flirting, or they might already be in a serious relationship. But either way, if this is the case with your ex, it's obviously a major obstacle in your way. And it is also likely one of, if not the biggest reasons why they're not chasing you or showing much interest in reconnecting. Now, the best case scenario is if your ex has started dating somebody new, is that it's simply a rebound fling. A rebound, as I've explained in several of my past videos, is often actually a good thing for your chances of getting your ex back in the long run, because it really only postpones your ex's post-breakup heartache and loneliness. Because a true rebound is really short-lived, usually less than 2 months or so, and is more about the physical side of things than a real romantic connection. So if your ex has jumped into a rebound, it's likely to end soon, at which point, your ex will have to face all of the difficult post-breakup emotions and loneliness that you're experiencing now. And that is your opportunity to swoop in and present yourself and getting back together as a way for them to numb the pain instantly. Now, I actually did make a video about how to steal your ex back from a rebound previously, which I'll link to in the description below if you want to learn some more. But before we move on, just one critical disclaimer here. Never, ever, ever try to interfere with your ex's new relationship or new partner in any way. Don't try to talk them out of dating this person or badmouth this new person or do something stupid to try to sabotage their relationship. I know it's painful to learn that your ex is already with someone new, but if you try to interfere or break them up in any way, you're going to look pathetic and it's going to backfire and ensure that your ex is gone for good. And that brings us to reason number 6. You haven't given them a chance to miss you. Now, this is a big one. Definitely one of the most important factors on this list. If you haven't given your ex a chance to actually start missing you, to really feel your absence and how much worse life is without you around, then they've got no reason or incentive to reach out or make any effort to talk to you, I should say. And this is why a period of no contact is so important and so powerful when it comes to getting your ex to take you back. By disappearing and giving them plenty of time and space for a while, ideally 2 to 4 weeks or more, depending on your specific situation, you really force your ex to feel those consequences of breaking up and to experience life when you're completely gone. It ensures that they have to deal with a sudden cold turkey breakup experience, which frankly, most people aren't expecting when they dump their partner. Most people expect their ex to hang around, maybe beg for another chance or try to talk them out of it. And remember, your ex can't miss you if you're always around. So if you haven't yet vanished as much as practically possible from your ex's life, do it immediately so that your ex actually has the time and space to really start to miss you and realize how much you brought to their life and how much they've really lost by breaking up with you. If you're struggling with how to do this or how to adapt this to your specific and unique situation, please consider signing up for a month of my very affordable ongoing one-on-one coaching. You can get all the details, start working with me today by going to breakupbrad.com/coaching. As soon as you sign up, you can send me all the details and we'll work together to come up with a plan to make sure you successfully get them back. But now let's move on to reason number 7. Your ex has lost attraction for you. Now, this might be a bit of a catch-all one here because attraction can really be defined in a lot of ways. And actually, while I don't want to get into all the details here, the reality is that all breakups are fundamentally caused by some kind of underlying loss of attraction. But for the purpose of this video, what I'm referring to is generally physical and sexual attraction. Obviously, these are intertwined with mental and emotional attraction too. But I definitely do see situations where my clients were dumped because their ex genuinely just wasn't attracted to them physically anymore. Now, this is unlikely to be the single biggest factor in your case, unless you've changed your appearance or, physically changed a lot since you and your ex first started dating. If you gained a lot of weight, changed your hairstyle, changed your fashion, got a bunch of new piercings or tattoos, whatever it was. But if that is the case, then those changes, of course, could have caused your ex to reach a point where they decided they simply weren't physically or sexually attracted to you enough to continue the relationship. Now, I wouldn't suggest you suddenly undo any changes you made to your appearance just to try to appease your ex or even to make really any effort to go back to the way you looked early in your relationship. But do take a real look in the mirror at whether you've changed a lot recently and whether those changes might have contributed to a loss of attraction for your ex. Obviously, things like losing some weight, getting fit again, changing your hairstyle, those kinds of things might help in this situation, but really you just want to focus more on being a total physically attractive person in general. And then rebuild your ex's attraction by flirting in person, using positive nostalgia to your advantage, and so on. And reason number 8, social pressures and expectations. Sometimes friends and family influence how your ex responds after a breakup. So they might, be getting advice to stay strong or not look back. And that can, of course, deter them from reaching out, even if they really want to. Social expectations can be a really powerful force, especially if pride is involved. So even if your ex's friends and family liked you and got along well with you, that doesn't mean they won't be encouraging your ex to move on and resist the urge to contact you or to take you back. Most people really love to play matchmaker, or in this case, matchbreaker, with their friends, including after a breakup. So they might tell your ex to try and forget about you, to focus on the negative things that led to your breakup, or to start dating again just to take their mind off things. And unfortunately, there's really nothing you can do in this situation to change what your ex's friends and families are really saying to them. And if you try, like for example, if you were to tell your ex not to listen to their friends who say you're not right for them, that's pretty much guaranteed to backfire in a big way. So you just need to focus on what you can control, work on making your ex believe that breaking up was a mistake and that getting back together is the best decision moving forward. If this video hasn't given you enough advice and proven strategies to help your ex come to that conclusion, well, I recommend you go to breakupbrad.com after this video is over and watch my full tutorial to learn about my complete foolproof system to ensure you get a second chance with your ex. I've got 2 videos of the tutorial video on my website, 2 versions, I should say, one for men, one for women. And again, you can watch the full video for free at breakupbrad.com. And reason number 9, your ex thinks the issues are irreconcilable. I mean, this one is pretty self-explanatory, but if there were some fundamental issues or disagreements in your relationship and your ex has no reason to believe that those problems can really be overcome in the future, well, that could be the main thing that's preventing them from getting back together or showing any interest. Now, if this is the case for you, you're probably going to know it. For example, I recently had a client who had been together with her boyfriend for almost 6 years. They were really happy together. They lived together, things seemed great. But despite talking it over many times, they could really never agree on having kids. She desperately wanted kids and made clear to her boyfriend, and he was adamant that he never wanted a family. So no matter how many times they discussed it or tried to compromise, they just couldn't agree, and it led to a breakup, to the end of an otherwise healthy and happy relationship. And this is the kind of irreconcilable issue that would make your ex stick to their decision to break up. And frankly, sometimes this kind of breakup really is necessary. If you can't agree on fundamental things like whether or not you'll have kids, live together, etc., then it can come to a breaking point and end up with both partners having to accept that it's just never going to work out in the long run. There is also the rare situation where your ex just thinks that things can never change or you can never see eye to eye. So for example, maybe there's something you did or said during your time together that upset your ex enough to break up. Maybe your ex hated your friends and the people you spent your time with, and you never showed any interest or willingness to reduce how much you hang out with them or put in the effort to work out a compromise. Now, in that kind of situation, assuming you are willing to take steps to change and address the underlying issues that your ex thinks are irreconcilable, then showing your ex that you can change and that things can be different or fixed for a future relationship, that might be enough to change their mind. All right, and reason number 10, they feel a need for autonomy. After a breakup, people often feel the need to reassert their independence. So your ex might be focusing on themselves, trying to rediscover who they are outside of the relationship. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it may very well be short-lived. Often this kind of thing ends up with your ex not being satisfied with the single life, or realizing what they've lost by letting you walk out of their life. I'm sure you've heard the expression, the grass is always greener, before. And this is exactly what often leads to people seeking that autonomy and freedom after a long-term relationship ends. They may have romanticized the idea of being single, being free to do whatever they want and having the time to focus on themselves and their hobbies and friends. And then once they actually find themselves in that situation, they end up realizing, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Unfortunately, you can't really do much to change this except for backing off and letting your ex take the time to realize what they've really lost by breaking up. Because if you try to chase them, convince them to take you back or reconsider, or if you beg, plead, and otherwise just fail to respect their boundaries and give them that autonomy they're after, it's only going to make matters worse. You need to do the opposite. Back off, show them that you'll respect them and that you're going to move on quickly unless they soon change their mind and ask you to get back together. And reason number 11, they're hurt and or they don't trust you. Now, I have said this a couple of times already, but this one really doesn't need much explaining. Because if you did something truly awful to your ex, cheating on them, lying to them multiple times, anything like that, anything where your ex has good reason to be upset and to not trust you, that's obviously going to be a major reason they're not going to chase after you looking for a second chance. So apologize once in a sincere and honest way. Explain how you understand how your actions upset your ex and betrayed their trust, and describe what you've learned from it and how things will be different in the future. And then take steps to show, with actions, not words, that you'd never make the same mistake again. Now, this is easier said than done, and I've made previous videos on how to apologize to your ex and overcome a loss of trust. So I will leave it there, but obviously if you did something to break your ex's trust, and you also probably know why that's stopping them from reaching out or agreeing to get back together. And reason number 12, your ex thinks that you've moved on. So believe it or not, your ex might be under the impression that you've really just moved on. If you haven't reached out to them at all, in other words, your period of no contact has lasted a month or more already without any real communication between the two of you, well, they might assume that you're over the relationship. And this can, of course, create a stalemate where neither party wants to make the first move out of a fear of rejection. There's actually a psychological concept called pluralistic ignorance, where both parties are unsure of the other's feelings, and as a result, neither of them do anything. So in the context of breaking up, both you and your ex might be reaching out, waiting for the other to reach out, leading to, obviously, a prolonged silence. Now, I want to make one thing here clear. Many of my clients think and wish that this was the case for their ex, but it's actually not all that common. Most of the time, in most situations, your ex won't be convinced enough that you've moved on to just avoid reaching out to you at all. And most of the time, you will already have shown your ex enough signals that you're interested in keeping in touch that they won't assume that you've fully moved on. But, if it has been a really long time since the initial breakup, and or you've, had long periods without any contact with your ex, and especially if you don't, have any mutual friends that you share, or there's no easy way for your ex to learn what you've been up to, then this might be a factor for you. And on to reason number 13, your ex is genuinely too busy. All right, we'll end on one that's also a simple one and also very uncommon, to be honest. But it is possible that your ex actually does have some legitimate, practical reason why they can't commit to a relationship right now. For example, maybe they're in the military and they're being deployed overseas for a year, or you live in different countries and can't get a visa to visit one another. Again, this is one where you're probably going to know if this is the factor for your ex. So if you're not sure, then it's almost certainly not the main reason why your ex isn't willing to take you back. And just to remind you, your ex may have given you excuses or justifications for the breakup when they told you it was over. Maybe they said things like, I don't have time to be in a relationship, I'm so busy studying all the time, or anything along those lines. But in my experience, at least 90% of the time, those excuses are just that, excuses. Your ex probably felt that they had to give you some kind of an explanation as to why they wanted to break up, but didn't want to hurt you by telling you the full truth. Or just as common, maybe they don't actually know themselves exactly why they were unhappy in the relationship, but they needed to tell you something so you'd accept their decision and back off. Anyway, if your ex is truly extremely busy, like they're working overseas for months at a time, or they have kids from a previous relationship that consume all their time, or there's any other kind of practical reason why being together is difficult or impossible, well, you'll almost certainly know it, and there's not much you can do to change it, unfortunately. All right, well, that's a lot of different reasons why your ex may not be chasing you yet. Hopefully, I've helped you understand your situation. and your ex's mindset a little bit better. Now it's really time to focus on yourself and what you can do to overcome these challenges. Start right now by taking my free quiz at breakupbrad.com/quiz. Or, like I said earlier, watch my full how-to tutorial video at breakupbrad.com to learn all of my full proven system to get your ex to change their mind and start chasing after you. Of course, you should also subscribe to my channel here on YouTube for more advice videos like this one every week. And feel free to ask any of your questions or give me some feedback in the comments below. For now, wishing you the very best of luck. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.